Hi, I'm Jake Birtwhistle, under 23 world champion and World Series medalist, and you're listening to the Physical Performance Show.
And the winner is...
Failure is not an option.
I've had my ups and my downs.
I think it's an absolutely breakthrough experience.
Welcome to the Physical Performance Show, the show designed to inspire the pursuit of your physical best performance. I'm your host, Brad Beer. Listen in as we delve into how the world's top physical performers achieve their success, as well as the highs, the lows, and the journey of getting there. Let's get ready, set, let's go. Listeners, welcome to another episode of the Physical Performance Show. I trust you've been having a great week, and I hope that you've been enjoying the previous episodes of the Physical Performance Show, including last week's guest and featured athlete, Jamie Mitchell. Jamie is a bigger wave surfing aficionado who shared some amazing insights into the world of charging big waves at the highest, pardon the pun, level. Jamie's episode was terrific. If you missed it, jump back over on iTunes or SoundCloud if you're on an Android device and tune into Jamie Mitchell. Even if you're not into big wave surfing, you won't want to miss the insight into what it takes to tackle fear and drop into 60 to 80 foot waves. So that's last week's episode. This week, we're in for a treat with an amazing young Australian athlete who's on the rise. More on this week's guest in just a moment. As always, though, big thank you. As always, today's episode is lovingly brought to you by POGO Physio. We are Australia's first practice to offer fixed fee, unlimited access physiotherapy care. We've done this through our Finish Line programs. They're 2, 6 and 12 weeks in duration, and they give our patients unlimited access to the treatment that we believe they truly need, as opposed to the treatment that they can afford or fund on the traditional, generally expensive session-to-session model of care. It's a whole lot of fun delivering the services. It's a whole lot of fun for our clients getting results and getting back to their physical best. So if you're interested in finding more out about the Finish Line programs here at POGO Physio, jump over to pogophysio.com.au. And if you're interstate outside of Queensland, then stay tuned. The POGO Partners program will be bringing the Finish Line programs into other states of Australia in 2018. Massive thanks as always to you, the faithful listener. If it's your first time joining us today, a massive welcome. If it's your 73rd time, then welcome back. And I hope you've been enjoying recent episodes. A big shout out to a listener who in particular has taken the time to leave a review. And that this week is Mr. Dave Hazelwood. Dave rated the podcast 5 stars, and David's comments were thoroughly enjoying listening to this podcast and learning so much. The generosity of all the athletes interviewed is incredible. Their willingness to share what they have been through on their journey to success means plenty of inspiring stories, but also strategies and tips that we can also apply. Fantastic work, Brad. Long may you continue. Well, David, thank you for your generosity of comments. And I agree, this show wouldn't be possible without the generosity of our guests. And that includes today's guest. So, David, thank you very much for taking the time. Listeners, if you'd like to leave a review, that'd be amazing. It means a lot to me. You can do that over on iTunes through your desktop. Can't be done, unfortunately, through a tablet or a mobile device. So you can jump over to iTunes and simply click the little tab that says ratings and review and rate away. Talking about today's guest. Today we are catching up with Jake Birtwhistle. Jake is an Australian triathlete on the rise. At just 22, Jake's accolades are extremely impressive. From a running background, Jake was crowned Australian Junior Champion 11 times over the middle distance events. Jake then converted to triathlon at 17 years of age and has had incredible success on the international stage ever since. Jake was the 2015 Under-23 World Champion, and in more recent years, Jake's gone on to record some great podium finishes and also a race win in the inaugural Super League Triathlon Series, one of the events up at Hamilton Island earlier in the year, which is where I first caught up with Jake. Just recently, Jake's been in some red-hot form on the World Triathlon Series. Jake's been in red-hot form, picking up podium finishes with a second place in both the Hamburg and Edmonton rounds of the World Triathlon Series. Jake's heading into the grand final coming up in the World Triathlon Series in Rotterdam, and then will also compete in the second round of the World Super League Triathlon Series over on Jersey Island. So Jake shares some great insights into the world of hitting peak performance in one of the most arduous sports around, triathlon. And he also lets us in a little bit on his character, the things he likes, the things he doesn't like as much. He's a great young guy with a massive, massive future. Look out for him coming into the 2018 Commonwealth Games and also Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. So let's jump in with Mr. Jake Birtwhistle as he recovered at the time of recording from one of the World Triathlon Series events in his hotel room in Spain. Here it is, Mr. Jake Birtwhistle. Listeners, this is an absolute treat. Jake Birtwhistle is a triathlon sensation who we are just starting to see some of the best results from. And Jake is joining us today from Girona over in Spain, and has just come off the weekend where he took 2 podiums, helping Australia become the world champions in the team race, and taking a silver in the elite men's race in Hamburg, Germany. So Jake, I believe you've just woken up there in Spain, so thanks for jumping on with us today.
Yeah, no worries, Brad. Thanks for having me.
So if there's any pauses and yawns, we understand why, mate, after such a successful weekend. Let's start there though, Jake. How could we not? How did that play out for you? Were you just astounded with the results, or you knew you were in good shape going into Hamburg? It's been a good race for you in the past, coming second in 2016.
Yeah, it was. So it was a race that I was kind of, I guess, wanting to go back to and do well again after having a bit of success there last year. It was good. Like, I was able to spend quite a lot of time between Yokohama and Hamburg kind of preparing for this event. So we're able to, I guess, pull out all the stops and prepare as well as possible for this event. And so, yeah, really happy to kind of go there and I guess do what we planned and have a couple of good races. So.
And I mean, mate, the finish, you ran past, from memory, Rich Murray and Ryan Sissons and I think it was Gomez to come out of the last 300 metres. I think you took a few scalps in that last 300 metres. Certainly those fast finishes are becoming a bit of your forte.
Yeah, they seem to be. I found myself in not the best spot with our 500 to go and had a bit of catching up to do. That certainly wasn't in the plan to start with. I would have liked to just be there from the get-go, but I guess it's fortunate that I do have that kind of speed over the back end, and was able to, I think, come from about 6th to 2nd in the last 400 or 500 metres. So a bit of work to catch up there, but yeah, thankfully I was able to do it.
And coming in just behind, Mario Mola, you're now training partner with Joel Filiol's squad, so that would be quite special too, I guess, sharing the podium with your training partner now.
Yeah, it was. Well, I guess it was my first race since really joining Joel and the group. So it was cool to kind of be up there standing next to Mario on the podium, the new training partner, and I guess the best training partner in the world. So it's pretty cool. Yeah,
absolutely. As the current, the reigning world champion. So Jake, just before we head off Hamburg, the teams race, can you take listeners through a little bit about the teams and why that's so significant leading into Tokyo 2020, where it's now an Olympic event?
Yeah, so I guess those that don't know, it's 2 guys and 2 girls competing together. racing one at a time over a 300 swim, around 6-7K bike, and a 1 mile run, I think it is. So yeah, obviously, yeah, it's getting quite serious now. It's quite a new event, I guess. But yeah, now that it's starting to get a bit of traction and become an Olympic event now, it's I guess quite important for us all. So something that we're all really looking to do well at and to perform as a country and both as athletes. So yeah, the team was Charlotte, McShane, Matt Hauser, Ashley Gentle, and myself. And yeah, thankfully this year we're all able to have good legs and back up from the day before and perform well and come away with the gold medal in the World Championships for the first time, I think, for Australia. So that's something that is pretty cool.
It's huge, isn't it? And it certainly set the bar high now, Jake, leading into Tokyo. So, no, congratulations. And it was great to watch those finishes and see the celebrations. And young Matt Hauser jumping in, that's pretty special for him too, right? Yeah,
well, you'd think so. It's only, I think, his second World Series. And, yeah, to be the next best performed Australian is, I think, really good for him. And I think this short kind of racing is where he's best at as well, for sure. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens next year, I guess, with the same events being held in Com Games. We just have to wait and see who that team will be and who else will be there.
Yeah, and mate, we're certainly, I'm recording this from the Gold Coast today. We're looking forward to, hosting the Com Games come 2018, and you're already into the team, which is exciting, having secured your berth at the WTS race on the Gold Coast. So that must be nice, having had the I guess somewhat disappointment of missing Rio 2016. There was some close calls of team selection there. So this must feel like, in many ways, Jake, the start of your real national representation, does it? Getting the Com Game spot.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to kind of be 12 months out and have already ticked that box to be selected. So it does take quite a weight off my shoulders that I was carrying around in the lead up and the qualification period for Rio. Obviously that didn't work out for me, but I guess this time I did what was required and kind of took that out of their hands and made it my kind of business, I guess. And yeah, so very thankful to have been able to do that early on this year and kind of focus on moving forward and focus on, I guess, performing at the games this time around.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Jake, what's something that scares Jake Birtwhistle?
Heights.
Heights, is that right?
Height. Yeah, but it's a weird one. It's not like being high scares me. That's fine. It's like being in elevators and stuff, like things that can fall that I don't trust. That scares me.
You've had no bad experiences. It's just a fear that's been birthed somewhere, has it?
Yeah, I don't know why it started, but the older I get, the more I kind of start thinking about just weird things like that and just all the different ways that something could go wrong and I'd die.
Well, mate, you're still breathing and alive, and it just I think you're just on 22, 23 now. Is that right, Jake?
Yeah, I'm 22.
Yeah, mate, and so much achieved in so many short years, I should say. So, mate, it's exciting. Let's talk about your genesis story, Jake. I grew up as a triathlon fan and junior triathlete myself, and Australia went through a bit of a dry patch with international elite level success, and I recall being in the Devonport Triathlon. I raced in my age group there, Jake, in the 30 to 34 years, and you were racing the junior event, and you've been getting good results. This was 2013, even ahead of then, and I recall thinking, here's a guy that can truly start to mix it with, at that stage, the Brownlees and the Gomez's, and I don't think I'm the only one that obviously had that insight into potential that you had, Jake. But I mean, you came from a running background, 11 national titles over middle distance. Running was your focus. Take us through how you discovered triathlon and why you shifted over, Jake.
Yeah, well, I'd actually from the Devonport Triathlon, I think when I was quite young. I was down there spending some time with my family and remember watching it. I would have been maybe 4 or 5. And I was always interested in doing one after that. And yeah, eventually a few years down the track. I think I was 12 when I convinced my parents to let me do my first one. It was planned to be one of the super sprint, like Weet-Bix series kind of events. It for some reason was cancelled though, like a few days before. So I ended up just stepping up and racing a super sprint race. And so I was 12 at this time, and I did it and I loved it. And I wasn't that great in the swim or bike, but even back then, I guess I could still run pretty well. So kind of have, I guess, done them ever since. More so just for cross training for quite some time, as I was focusing and I guess planning on being a runner. But over time, I guess my preference just changed, and eventually, I started calling myself a triathlete, not a runner.
So what age did that happen, Jake, where you made an identity shift? Because that's a big thing. I mean, it's not like you're an aspiring runner without credentials. I mean, there was a pathway there forwards for you with the talent and the results you had to make a career out of running. But how old were you? Can you recall when you went, no, actually I'm a triathlete now? Yeah,
I think there was no real particular point, but I'd say around 17, 18, so about 4 or 5 years ago now, where I just kind of started preferencing the triathlon over the running events. If there was I think there was a few times where there was a clash of events on the same weekend, and each time I picked the triathlon, and I kind of said, well, I guess that's it then, that's the decision.
I'm a triathlete. You mentioned there, Jake, you had to convince your parents to let you do that junior triathlon in Devonport. Why did they take some convincing? Did they want to see you stay on your running, or they just didn't want to drive you from Launceston to Devonport?
Well, no, that was even before I was a runner. So I was kind of just I think I was a young soccer player back then, or I thought I was anyway. But I think just, I don't know, the endurance kind of sport, I guess, even though it was a short one, it's for some parents it'll take some convincing for their young kid to go and do. But
so you're aspiring to be a soccer player. At what point though, Jake, did you realise you had a real talent with running? I mean, was there one national title out of the 11 that really stands out for you? Yeah,
I guess in the period of 6 months, I went from kind of being lucky to get top 20s at a nationals to winning a gold. And then the next day I won another gold in my next event, and then the next day won a silver in my last event. So it all kind of was pretty quick, I guess, to try to go from being an average junior runner to being I guess one of the top. And was once I kind of got those few medals, I got the confidence that I could be good, and I was as good as these other guys from Victoria and from New South Wales and wherever. And from then on, I think every nationals I did, I walked away with at least one gold medal for the next few years. So.
And Jake, it's interesting to hear that you had to get the confidence. What happened in that 6 month period? What do you think changed from 20th to sort of first, and then your confidence was there? Was it a specific batch of training, or staying injury free, or just believing in yourself more? Can you sort of pinpoint anything that might have happened in that 6 month transformation period?
Yeah, I think, funnily enough, I think the number one big change was I had a growth spurt. And I went from being one of the little kids in the bunch to kind of I became quite tall, and I felt like I just that was the year I kind of grew up a little bit, I guess, and started to see results kind of coming alongside that. So I kind of put it down to that, but I don't know if that's maybe the only reason or what, but. Yeah, I think that's definitely played a part.
Yeah, I mean, you're one of the sort of taller stature guys in the world of elite triathlon these days. So, Jake, I mean, you jump over to triathlon and you have almost immediate success. Under 23 world champion in 2015, runner-up in 2014. Was there a moment of belief kicking in your triathlon world where you thought, like you did with your running, where you went from 20th to first one year? Where is there a particular race, Jake, where you thought, I've got this, I can actually, this is my career, I am where I'm meant to be?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say there was any particular time. I guess with the ITU events, from a viewing kind of perspective anyway, what you see is the runners winning the races, basically. So I kind of had always thought, as long as I was still able to be this runner, that I would be able to do well and I would be able to win the further along with the triathlon you get, you kind of like understand that it's certainly a lot more than just running. But yeah, I guess I just had the belief in myself that I'd be able to kind of chip away at the swim and bike where I needed to improve. And I guess over the years I have been able to do that all right. There's still obviously a bit of improvements to go, like there always will be. But yeah, so there was no like real specific date or any events that I did that I was kind of, I guess, realised. But I think all along I kind of had that belief that I could, and it was almost just a matter of time.
Of executing it. And I mean, your swim, Jake, has come along incredibly, right? I mean, up at Super League earlier this year, you were one of the dominant swimmers up there, so no longer is your swim or bike a liability. You must be happy with the progress you've made across those two legs in recent years. Yeah, definitely. I think especially this year, the swim really seems to be coming along quite well. Yeah, the Super League, I guess, was the first kind of taste of it, and something that I've working pretty hard to kind of continue, because it's a pretty big relief to kind of come out of the water and be up towards the front and not have time to chase, which is what I was kind of used to in the previous years. So yeah, certainly is very nice and a feeling, I guess, worth working hard for. And what's really changed it for you? Is it just the hard work, Jake? Time in the water, focus on your stroke, anything in particular, or?
I think it's a mix of quite a lot of things, but yeah, I'd say earlier on this year we kind of had a bit of a focus on like fixing the technique up a bit and trying to be a bit more efficient in the water. And just recently, over the last few months, it's just been about building up the volume and trying to get stronger, I guess. And that seems to be the one that's, I think, made the big jump and seen the improvements.
To put listeners in perspective, Jake, what's your sort of current swimming volume? How many sessions a week are you doing, and how many sort of Ks are you clocking over?
So I'm... Well, in the lead up to Hamburg, I was swimming 6 days a week with 2 double days. So around 30 to 35 Ks in the water, I think it was for that couple of months.
And is that at the higher end for you, Jake? That's a mileage. That's some of the sort of heavier volume you've done in your career to date.
So far I'd say that would be up there at least with the bigger swim weeks. I've just joined Joel Filiol's training group recently, so we're still it's quite new to it, I guess. So we're trying to figure out what the best plan is for me and how to attack that. But that was the plan for this, and I guess seemed to work quite well. So something that I'm sure will continue in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's go there. But just before we go there, on the swim stroke, just before we move off swimming, for the triathletes listening in, for the swimmers, what were the 1 or 2 tweaks you made to your technique, Jake? What were you focusing on there in terms of technique changes?
I guess I just had and I still don't think I have fully improved this at all. It's one of those things that you kind of just have to try and improve a little bit as you can, because it doesn't always come easy. But I just had a lot of, I guess, excess rotation and body movement, which was just, I guess, making me aerodynamic in the water. Yeah, just adding that extra resistance there, I guess, making life harder for myself in the swim. So, yeah, that was one of the moments, I guess, we kind of picked up on and tried to fix.
And, you don't want any extra resistance in the water. It's an unforgiving medium, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's just cruel. Yeah, it is cruel. Jake, let's talk about your recent coaching change. I mean, you were doing you really started to experience great success there as one of the Wollongong Wizards, with fellow guests of the program, Aaron Royal and obviously Ryan Bailey and a host of others, and just recently shifted over, literally overseas, Joel Filiol's squad. What's been one of the most surprising aspects of the new coaching environment, Jake?
Most surprising, I don't know, I guess, because I met with Joel a couple times and we spoke quite a bit before I'd fully made the decision. So I guess a lot of it is quite like what I expected in terms of the coaching and how me and Joel get along. Yeah, which is nice. I guess there's not too many bad surprises there. But yeah, I guess he's got obviously quite a very good group with the likes of Mario and Murray as well. So it's a great kind of group to be around and train with, and able to kind of pick the best out of everybody and kind of bring it all together and be a really strong training group.
And what's that like? I mean, you're still so fresh in years, and if we look at your time in the sport at an elite level, it's we're not talking many years. Is it a bit of a pinch yourself sort of moment where you're like, excuse me, Jake, I'm choking on a nut? Is it a bit of a daily kind of, how did I end up here? You're training with Murray, you're training with Mola. Obviously you're one of those guys now. You're in the mix at each race, but how's that? Is it surprising for you, or is it this all feels very natural?
Yeah, maybe not as surprising as I guess it could be, but yeah, I don't too often like kind of sit back and think where I was this time 2 years ago I think this time 2 years ago would have only just done my first couple of WTS events. So yeah, it certainly has come a long way in quite a short time, which almost kind of been fast tracked through the route, and all of a sudden I'm kind of feel like I'm one of the top guys in the series. So it's almost a little bit strange, but yeah, it is a very cool thing to say.
I think it's probably part of you fulfilling your destiny. You're on the right track, so therefore it doesn't feel too different because this is what I'm meant to be doing. Jake, just before we go into a performance round, which is a bit of a fun round around your training and training philosophies, what's going on with Tasmania, Jake? Those that don't know, international listeners, Tasmania is not the biggest state in Australia. It's not the most populated state in Australia. Yet the birth of talent that's come out of Tasmania and Launceston has just been outstanding. Everything, from yourself, Jake, to Richie Port, Greg Walton, previously in triathlon, Josh Harris, previous guest of the podcast, getting ready for his first world champs in the marathon. Mate, what is it about Tasmania?
I don't know. It's
the clean air.
Kind of a strange one, I guess. But yeah, they're always growing up. There's always but someone there for obviously quite a while. It was the cyclists with the Richies and the Matt Goss and the Salzburgers, and yeah, it just seems to always kind of be someone there pushing the pace, which is it's pretty cool for. I guess it's quite a small place, compared to most other cities in Australia, and they definitely. I think we are pulling our weight in terms of sporting performance as well. So yeah, it's cool.
If Tassie was its own nation at the Olympic Games, we might see it on the podium. But Jay, there is actually a theory that, and I grew up in Grafton, small country town, 30,000 people, and as a junior in these towns doing your sport, and I was doing junior triathlon, you'd always race the seniors because there wasn't the junior ranks. So there's something to possibly be said for that. You quickly outgrow your competition in the juniors, so you've got to step up. So who knows? Could be one of the elements,
right?
Yeah,
it could be. And I think, with Tassie as well, they always kind of say, oh, he's a Tassie boy, he's tough. He's had to train through winters in minus temperatures and still get it done. So I think, that's something that I don't know if I could do it anymore, spending summers or Australian winters over here in Europe in the sun, but it has been a while since I've done a Tassie winter, but I think I've still kind of got that in me, and I guess, have trained through some pretty tough elements with the weather and made it through all right. So
it's that Tassie toughness, mate, breeding tough in the south. Hey, Jake, let's do a performance round, mate. So some relatively rapid-fire answers for these questions. Here we go, the first one. The training session you most dislike, Jake?
For long runs.
Long runs. The training session you most love?
Anything on the track, I'd say. Running.
If you could pick one session on the track, what's your pet love session?
Probably 1K repeats.
How many are we talking about, Jake?
Maybe 6.
What recovery?
I like a good recovery, like 90 seconds to 2 minutes.
Yeah, and you'll be punching these out in what, 240, 2 pens?
Yeah, I guess depends on the coach's orders, but anywhere down to 240, 245.
Yeah, sure. Jake, what's your favourite pre-race meal? Have you got a bit of a ritual around your pre-race meal?
Yeah, always eat a pizza. I don't have any particular kind, but it's always been pizza for the last few years.
And that's the night before?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if it's a morning race, or rarely so much in the WTS, but if it's an afternoon race, what might you have for lunch and just before the event?
Well, for Hamburg, I just had a pretty normal breakfast, like a muesli and yogurt, and then had a small sandwich and a pastry for lunch.
And away you went, and it worked well. So keep duplicating that. What's your bedtime, morning time like, Jake? Obviously getting up around 8 a.m. over there at the moment today. That might be a bit of race fatigue, or is that your standard sort of get up time?
Yeah, it's a little later than normal, I guess. Normally, or for the last few months anyway, trying to wake up around 7 o'clock to kind of just get things started for the day. But yeah, usually the bedtime's too late and waking up's a little late as well. So
what might the bedtime be?
It could be anyway. It depends how distracted I get on social media. It could be 11, it could be 1.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, I'm pleased I'm not the only one going to bed at 1 a.m, Jake. So there you go. Jake, who's the athlete you most admire and why?
Probably Jan Frodeno. And reason being, I don't really know. He's one of the few athletes or in triathlon anyway, that I've kind of really almost idolized, I guess. I try to always not look at like the Brownlees and the Gomez as like a hero kind of thing, because I knew that one day I was going to be lining up next to them, and to kind of race with your hero and be there and try and beat them. It just seems like it would be quite a hard like space to be in. So I always tried to like step away from kind of having heroes and having someone to idolize like that. But yeah, Jan has always kind of been someone that kind of was a little bit separate, and thankfully I haven't had to race him yet. I don't plan on doing an Ironman anytime soon, but yeah, we'll see.
This is just a pause on the performance round, because that's fascinating. Did anyone sort of share that insight with you, Jake, or did you just know that, hey, I'm going to be mixing it with these guys? As you say, you don't want to get too far down the admiration track, because you got to line up with them. Did anyone share that with you, or is that something you just arrived at yourself?
Yeah, maybe a bit of both. I can't think who it would have been that would have said, but yeah, I was kind of like went away to camps and things, and was always kind of told the opposite, like you need someone to look up to, and I kind of just never fully agreed with it, and kind of just was happy to I guess do what I believed and treat it like this. So yeah, that's just kind of what I'd always done.
It's very, very wise. It's quite profound. Who's the toughest competitor you've ever raced, Jake, and why?
I guess you look at Alistair, and he's probably the most all-rounder athlete, so he doesn't really have a weakness, and that makes him tough.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then again, on the weekend, I guess, and racing with Mario in the past as well, like you see that once you get on the run with him, he's going to be tough to beat, because he's a hard guy, and he knows how to hurt, I think that's for sure. So yeah, one of those two.
Great. Is there a mantra, Jake, that you use when you race? Is there any self-talk that you're often, got going through your head as you're on the start line?
Yeah, just trying to remind myself that like this, I'm in it and this is what I do kind of thing. Because I guess you race so often, it almost kind of can become second nature. So yeah, I kind of just have to remind myself that, right, this isn't a training session. This is the big time again now. So it's time to go.
It's time to go. In one word, how would you describe your racing style, Jake?
Smart.
Smart. And
anyway.
Try and be, well, mate, I think it's working. How would you describe being in the zone, Jake, for the uninitiated?
I always feel very calm, but also you just feel ready. And it's hard to describe like what that is, I guess, but yeah, very kind of calm, but also very confident.
When was the last time you were in the zone? Presume the weekend. Yeah,
I guess the weekend. I think there was moments where I kind of zoned in and out of it in the individual race anyway. And I think that kind of, you can see that when I went from leading the run to dropping back to I think 5th or 6th. I kind of had a bit of a lapse there, I guess, where I think I let kind of things get on top of me and get the better of me. But yeah, I think the weekend was the last time.
And can you ever recall a race, Jake, where you've just been in that sweet spot the whole race?
Yeah, I'd say the under-23 world champs that I won a couple of years ago. That whole race, I think I just felt like I was kind of untouchable, like I was never going to get beaten that day, and I did. I won, so
you took it out. Jake, your best recovery tip?
I guess sleep's the most important, but yeah, get in some good food and just try and rest as much as possible.
Yeah, sleep, performance enhancing, and rest. On rest, a listener has asked a listener question, Jake. For you, is it active recovery or is it complete rest?
Depends, I guess, what we're talking. Like if it's between sessions or between events or anything, or reps. I guess for me, I'd use a bit of both, and they all kind of play their part. So
it really does depend, doesn't it? I love what Nick Willis, shared on one of these previous episodes, Jake, and that was that, I've shared this many times on the program, but he sees rest as when he gets ahead, because everyone's doing the work, but not everyone's resting well. So I thought that's quite profound, right, from a multiple Olympian.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty true as well. So
yeah, absolutely. Jake, what's the worst injury you've ever had?
It's not a super exciting one, but I guess the one that saw me out of competition for the longest was a broken collarbone from a bike crash.
Was that a road bike or mountain bike? What were you up to?
Yeah, road bike. I was actually competing in one of the junior race in the junior series at Runaway Bay. Yeah, came down in a bike crash, just got stuck behind it, and that saw me out for all the rest of the season, just about.
And any surgery required for that, Jake? Or
no, I didn't have surgery. I just kind of let it heal, just time off and waited.
And so no major overuse injuries, mate, that have plagued you or been on and off for you? You've been pretty injury-proof?
Touch wood.
Continue.
I've been all right with it. So, hasn't been too many big dramas, that's for sure.
That's brilliant. Jake, what's the hardest training session you've ever done?
I'm going to say it would be like a running one, like a long kind of a threshold kind of set, I guess. I said before the long runs were my least favourites, and just kind of getting out there and continually going is what I find the hardest, I guess. So,
what do you find hard about that? I mean, that strikes me as interesting, because your run is such a strength, and yet getting out there and continuing to run, is it you just want to go fast, or patience, or is it you just really don't like going that long at this stage?
I think it's just, for me, I'm a very fast twitch kind of athlete. Like I can, go with the punches and the attacks for most of the time. And this is for swim, bike and run. It's just kind of putting it in that gear and kind of going all day. And I think the long run kind of also coming at the end of the week, it's usually, one of the, not the hardest session, but it's still a tough one to get through because of that.
And what is, out of interest, Jake, the longest run you've ever done?
I'd say it would be about an hour 45, I think, is the longest I've done.
And so, mate, there's so much scope, but we won't see you over an Ironman just on years alone, mate. You've got a bit to achieve between now and that thought. I know we'd all second that opinion. But Jake, 2 more questions on the performance round. Your best recovery tip, what's that? If you could pick one best recovery tip for listeners, what would that be?
I guess put the feet up.
Put the feet up, as in literally up on a couch, get off them?
Yeah, just kind of lay down on bed or on the couch or whatever. Yeah, it's a pretty simple one, I guess, but also easiest to do, and it works. So.
And Jake, our last question on the performance round: what's the funniest thing you've ever seen while out training? Maybe it was something in the wilderness of Tasmania.
I don't know. I'm just seeing it. Just like, there's always random things that you just see. I think over in Europe especially, like you see some weird things, like you'll be rolling like through this quiet road and you just see like just a random old couple like sitting in deck chairs in a random paddock and just like soaking up the sun, but it's just, you don't expect things like that when you're in the middle of nowhere.
And brilliant, mate. You're out of the performance round. That's your threshold session for the day. You can tell Joel you've done it. But in terms of Europe, recently landed over there with Joel and the squad, and I believe you correct me if I'm wrong, but it might have been one of your first trips up to the Pyrenees, right? How was that?
Yeah, it was my first time there, yeah. It was great. The training there was amazing, especially like the riding. It just kind of seemed endless. There's so many loops, and it was all obviously pretty up and down with the hills, but some pretty amazing rides for sure.
And what does it feel like, at altitude, putting in effort? Can you describe that for listeners?
Yeah, I guess it's I'd done similar altitude before in Falls Creek in Australia, so I think it's around the same height. But I've always done that to kind of begin training. So it's like right after taking like a month off and kind of straight back into it at Falls Creek, and it's always find it super tough. Like I'll wear like a heart rate monitor and do like a easy 30-minute run, and I'll have to walk half of it just because my heart rate's up towards like 200. So I was kind of going there this year, up to the Pyrenees this year, thinking it was going to be quite similar to that. And thankfully it wasn't so bad, I guess, because this time of year I am a lot fitter and just more adaptive, I guess. And so, yeah, it was good to kind of be at that kind of 1,1700 meters. It's enough that you can feel it, but you can still do a lot of quality work, and you can train quite hard still. So I think, yeah, it was almost like quite a perfect like sweet spot of height to, kind of get the best of both worlds, I guess, the hard training and the altitude benefits.
I mean, it was certainly working for you. So, and Jake, on that, a listener has asked here, mate, on social media, Mads has asked, how does Jake deal with multiple peaks within a long season? I mean, with Super League now being at the front end of the World Triathlon Series and the back end after the World Championship wraps up, how do you deal with those multiple peaks, Jake?
Well, I think something that I guess, something that Joel does very much is not so much peaking for particular events when it's such a long year. It's almost about just trying to stay conditioned all year. So not having those super high peaks, obviously, unless it's a Com Games or a World Championships coming up, that's kind of where you want to be your best, but trying to be consistent through the year and not have these real spikes, I guess, is something that he believes in, and something that is, I guess, a bit new to me, but something that I'm 100% following and think it seems like a great idea. So. And,
after the end of the season, you'll take a break and get ready for the next one, right?
Yeah, indeed. I'm not quite sure when that'll be yet. Obviously, with the Super League before and after ITU season, it's going to be quite a long year this year. I have to kind of work out and see what events I want to do once I get back to Australia, and see when I can fit in that break, because otherwise it's going to be obviously a long year. But I'd like to have a break, that's for sure, and kind of step away from the sport for a few weeks at least, and just kind of refresh and get back into it.
And when you do step away, Jake, you got a few hobbies. I believe photography is one. Anything else that you like to do? What do you like to do in your downtime? Social media? Photography is one of them. One thing I did last year on my break, which I really enjoyed and I can see myself doing a bit more of it, was did a lot of like hiking and bushwalking with my girlfriend. We planned to just, I guess, we're both from Tassie, both Tasmanian, and lived there our whole lives, but we kind of just thought there's still a lot of this little island that we haven't seen. So we kind of made it our mission last year to kind of see as much as we possibly could. So we still have a few things to tick off. So hopefully that kind of will be the plan for this year as well, kind of relax and try and just explore a bit and see the world. Yeah, beautiful, mate. And for listeners that aren't familiar with Tasmania, it's a treasure trove of beauty, natural beauty. So, Jake, tell me, if you had to boil all of your learnings down to just one bit of advice for listeners to implement to perform at their physical best, of everything you've learnt across different coaches and different sports, running, now triathlon, what would the one bit of advice from Jake Birtwhistle be? Tough question.
Yeah, it is. I guess I'd say like consistency is the key. And I think it's the same with any endurance sport. It's all just a matter of, I guess, what you put in, and what you can consistently put in is what you're going to get back. So whether, you don't want to be kind of going out there and smashing it for a few days and then kind of not being able to train. You want to kind of just be kind of tapping away and kind of getting bits done. eventually that's going to grow and you'll grow and get stronger. And I think that's like that's the big thing, I guess. Just kind of repetition
and just showing up, right? It's it's those daily gains, isn't it, towards the bigger goal?
Yeah, exactly. And it's the thing that kind of like, no matter like what you are trying to achieve, I guess, or what kind of level you're at, that's the one kind of thing that I guess it stays a constant. Like it's always going to be there and it's always going to benefit you. So,
and to give listeners a bit of perspective about consistency for you, Jake, I mean, at the moment you're into this WTS World Triathlon Series year and multiple events coming up. What's your breakdown of just approximate numbers, training volumes, hours, however you want to track it, and sessions? What's it look like for you at the moment?
I guess I'm swimming 8 times a week. Riding, I know I'm really bad with numbers. I don't try to pay too much attention to it, which is always, I don't know, people are different thoughts about that, whether I should be doing or paying more attention, I guess. But yeah, I'd say running maybe 5 or 6 times a week. Riding 4 or 5, I'd say.
Yeah, certainly. So, but whatever you're doing, Jake, don't change it. It's working for you. So, yeah. I think a lot of our athletes, love or non-interest in numbers really does come back to personality, Jake. And, I'm not a numbers guy. And so, I think there's a bit of personality born into that as well. And I think it's sometimes a great trait of athletes because they just don't get caught up on it. And others can be too analytical, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things like having Strava and stuff. Like I'm not into that at all. And I never really have been. Yeah, so it's one of if it's the kind of thing to look at, I'd have to be doing it outside of training, and then it's kind of like I want to just kind of step away from it for a little bit. So I'm the kind of, I guess, athlete kind of person that needs that a bit of escape, where you can kind of just sit back and not be a triathlete for a while. So I kind of have never really been interested in analysing the numbers and checking out people's race splits and things like that. So I'd rather just sit back and relax.
Well, Jake, it's interesting. I this morning interviewed Rich Willey out of East Carolina University. He's a running researcher, running injuries, biomechanics, and we're now seeing, and I'm seeing this in the physio practice, Strava injuries, Jake, where the temptation's there to go out and push because it's going to look better on social media. So it's probably serving you well, Jake, to a degree, that abstinence from Strava. So, Jake, what's on your bucket list, mate? Obviously, we're moving towards Com Games 2018 and then Tokyo 2020. But what are the big things you'd like to achieve in your career?
I guess in triathlon, the 3 things on my mind right now would be Commonwealth Games, World Championship Series, and then Olympic Games gold. Gold in all 3 of those in 3 years would be a pretty big thing. And I guess that's kind of why I've always done this sport, is for those 3 kind of events. So those are the 3 ones that are the big goals and the things that I guess I want to achieve while I'm still doing this.
And Jake, previous guest of the podcast, Chris McCormack, he has tipped you for a long time to be a future world champion. He says it regularly, so there's a little bit of expectation there, Jake.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. It's coming from a guy like that as well, that's kind of been there and achieved some pretty impressive things in this sport. It's cool to have people like that believe in you.
Yeah, absolutely. Jake, outside of sport, what's on your bucket list?
On a road trip down the west coast of the USA in maybe like a Porsche or something, like a nice little sports coupe. Just kind of get out and drive.
Who's in your company there, mate? Your girlfriend?
Yeah, definitely. We kind of have our little Tassie road trips. But that's another one we'd add to the list of things I want to do.
Oh, that's cool. And there'd be no bike in the car, right?
Yeah, definitely not. There's plenty of other simple bike trips I'd like to do, but this one, no bikes.
No bikes. And Jake, fun question. If you could have 3 people, Jake, at the dinner table, living or past, who would be at Jake Birtwhistle's table and why?
I've listened to your things before, and I had thought of this question through, but I can't think who they were now.
So you mean you've done some research to get this, to get your answers for this?
Well, kind of. this is one of those questions that you get asked a lot, and you're always like, "Oh, I wish I had a better answer for this." But
Yeah, I agree.
I know, like over the next few hours today, like I'll keep thinking this over and think, "Oh, I should have said that guy as well." But
Who you got today? Who you got?
interesting people. I'll say Barack Obama, Kanye West. Can I say my girlfriend, or is that not? That's not good, is it?
Oh, mate, I think, Jake, that's very good.
This is tough. That's Ellen DeGeneres. That's my third person.
So why are they there? Why Ellen?
I think they're three pretty interesting people. Like I like hip hop music quite a lot, and love him or hate him. I guess Kanye's kind of been a pretty big influencer there. And then I've always kind of just seen, I guess, and watched Obama and Ellen, and just think they seem like really cool people. I think having someone there like an Ellen DeGeneres that can kind of get the conversations going, because that's what she does, that'd always be good. So there's no dead spots in the conversation at dinner.
Yeah, that's a fascinating table. Jake, all guests, as you know, being a previous listener of the Physical Performance Show, issue a challenge for the week, a physical challenge. It can be entry level, it can be very difficult. Brent McMahon recently, challenged people to 50 burpees a day, every day for the week. What's Jake Birtwhistle's challenge going to be for listeners? Yeah, okay. Well, I guess I'll go for a bit of a tough one then. Just after talking about my favourite session, 6x1Ks on, well, whether you do it on the track or not, but that's my challenge. So that's what I want to kind of challenge you all to do, and what I'd like to kind of see. Get out there and 6-1Ks and let us know how you go. So 90 seconds rest, Jake? Yeah, 90 seconds rest. Max effort for these 6-1Ks and see. And to tag you up, Jake, where can listeners find out more about your journey onwards to Com Games here on the Gold Coast and then Tokyo 2020? Where can we find you online? Yeah, so I'm pretty well on overall social media platforms, I guess. So my tag or handle would just be Jake Birtwhistle, full name, no spaces or anything. On my website, I try and keep that reasonably well updated from time to time. It's just jakebirtwhistle.com. Yeah, fantastic. So will listeners tag that up in the show notes? And Jake, you've got some great supporters in terms of sponsors. Who are the key people in your corner that have made you a success so far possible? Yeah, I guess sponsors are one of those things that kind of you need in a sport like this, especially. So they all have played their part over the time, whether I'm with them or not now. Like the big ones, like I've been with for quite a while, like ASICS. I think this is my 5th year using ASICS and competing for them. So they're a big one. And then having the support of like a company like Guzman and Gomez is probably one of my biggest supporters right now, and something that I certainly am very, very thankful to have. So that's definitely one as well. So. Fantastic, and a great way to refuel if you're in Australia. It might be overseas. Is it overseas, Guzman and Gomez? We're getting overseas. Yeah, there's a few spots in Singapore and Japan. So if you're there as well, you can pick it up. But it was a pretty cool. Like I've always loved Mexican food. Like I'll cook my own tacos like at least once or twice a week, kind of thing. And to kind of get that call up from someone from there was. It just seemed like a perfect fit. So it was, pretty cool. That's very cool, mate. So it's fueling you well. Hey, Jake, a couple of questions quickly come through on social media. Josh Harris, Marathon Josh, an Australian representative, has actually, this is not a question, but he said, how good is Launceston? And Emma Chachamil's got an intriguing question. I don't know how you're going to answer it. It's a bit cryptic. Would Jake prefer to have fingers as long as legs or legs as long as his fingers? I can't even figure that one out. Legs as long as fingers, legs as long as fingers. Mate, I don't get around in like a wheelchair, no worries, or something. Get some crutches. If your little legs got tired, I guess. But it'd be really,
practical to have legs on the end of your hands. So.
It's a cryptic one, Jake. Wow asks, what's Jake's PB 5K, 10K in a triathlon and on the track? Where do they currently sit, Jake, for the run, that is?
I don't actually know for sure. I think, in Hamburg, I think my 5K time this weekend, so in a triathlon obviously, was 14:15. Yeah, on the track, the last time I did a 5K, I think I was maybe 17. So it was quite a while ago. I think my PB is 14:19. So you would think I'd take quite a bit of time off that if I'm able to run quicker off the bike. So.
Yeah, absolutely. What about 10,000 metres, 10K?
10K, PB for just the run is 29:22, I think, maybe 23. And that was, I think, maybe 2 or 3 years ago now. And off the bike, I think I ran 29:45 last year in Yokohama.
Yeah, so impressive, mate. And I know previous guest of the podcast, Henry Schoomans, talking about, gold in, in Rio, podium finishing in Rio is just going to take a super fast split, right, for that 10K run leg.
Yeah, it certainly does now. That's kind of where the race is going to be won on that run. So, yeah, you need to kind of be a pretty class runner in your own right to do that, I think. So, yeah, something that's obviously very important and something that you got to keep on chipping away at, even as a runner like myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, mate, talking about chipping away, on behalf of the listeners, myself, mate, we wish you all the best for the rest of 2017 and then onwards to 2018. And mate, keep chipping away, because I think we've got a lot we're yet to see from Jake Birtwhistle. So, mate, all the very best, and thanks so much for generously sharing from your base there at the moment over in Girona.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks very much for the chat as well. It's good fun.
So, listeners, there you have it. Jake Birtwhistle. What an athlete, hey? Absolutely impressive athlete who has a huge future. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to let Jake and myself know. You can find Jake's social media handles over with the show notes at pogophysio.com.au. And let us know what it was you enjoyed about the episode, found interest in, took away from the episode as a learning. We'd love to know. It's great to communicate with the show listeners. So shoot those across and jump over and check out the show notes. Massive thank you, as always, to the two really good folk that make this podcast possible every week. That is Mr. Daryl Misson, audio engineer, and Susan Wilkin, extraordinary PA to the program. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate all your efforts. Listeners, if you'd like to subscribe to the Physical Performance Show, it's simple. Just hit subscribe from within your app, and that'll populate the show each and every week. If you know a triathlete or know an aspiring triathlete that this episode could encourage, do what I know so many of you already do and share the episode around. It's as simple as clicking the bottom on your smartphone and sharing the URL. That'd mean a lot too. Lastly, if you're into running, into triathlon, and you're yet to pick up a copy of my Amazon running and jogging bestseller, You Can Run Pain-Free, then be sure to check out the 333 pages and the 5-step method available through the physical print version, Amazon or POGO Physio, or the digital versions on all the usual places, and the audio versions via Audible and iBooks. Next week on the Physical Performance Show, we catch up with an expert. We're catching up with Rich Willey. Rich Willey is an assistant professor in the Department of Physical Therapy and Allied Health Services at East Carolina University, obviously in the US. And Rich's interest in his research, he's also been a physiotherapist, a clinician, or a physical therapist, as they say in the US. But his keen interest is around patellofemoral pain syndrome, or in other words, kneecap pain for runners, which, if you've been running for any period of time or competing in the sport of triathlon, then likely at some point you've experienced knee pain or anterior knee pain. Rich does a great job on the podcast of deconstructing the world of academics and sharing around the better part of 2 decades of research at the highest level into what drives kneecap pain, into running injuries, in particular for running injuries and how we can best manage them and prevent them. We talk about strength training, we talk about technology, and we talk about the effect of aging on the running body and how we can counteract that to ensure best performance and injury-free running. So this is one of the intermittent experts that we are featuring as per popular request through the feedback on the show. So be sure to tune in next week for a bit of learning. Have your learning hat on for Rich Willie. And until then, keep pursuing your physical best performance. I'm Brad Beer, and this has been the Physical Performance Show.